So go ahead and put your questions in the comments from now so that when I am finished talking, I can definitely jump into answering your questions. But of course, as you know, is the topic right now are all the changes that we can expect in 2025. Hi there, good evening. We are expecting changes in 2025, and we want to make sure that we're prepared. I'm preparing for my clients to make sure my clients' rights are enforced and that they're safe throughout the process. And you should be doing the same thing. Start preparing from now because immigration on a whole is going to get a lot more tedious. It's going to get hard. We're going to go through a rough patch. So, here are some of the recommendations. Oh, I'm so glad that you're able to do that consult. So, I'm looking forward to helping you. Now, here's my recommendations. Make sure don't now, even if it's a family based application that you're doing, marriage based, or other types of relief that you're applying for, you need to make sure you are represented by an attorney. Do not go to anybody. Make sure that they can show you that they are a licensed, qualified attorney. Because what's going to happen is the cases are going to get a lot more complicated, and you do not want just anybody filling out your forms, filling out your documentation. Even during the Biden administration, I've seen this happen where people end up going to these paralegals, notarios, people who are not certified immigration specialists, and they go ahead and have this person fill out forms, and even the person just tells them, oh yes, I'll get the benefits for you, and they trust them, and it turns out it may not even be a legit application, which is going to lead to fraud, immigration fraud, by the way. This administration is going to be very sensitive to these kinds of issues, even if you are not committing fraud, which a vast majority of immigrants are not committing fraud. But what I saw in my practice, as I was practiced during the Trump administration, as I was practicing during the Trump administration, they were so sensitive to fraud that they slowed down the process. They would slow down the process. They would look at every little thing to then insinuate that you were committing fraud, even in marriage-based cases. So it's time to make sure that you and your family, your spouse are protected during the process, because it's going to get more complicated. And even though at the forefront it may seem simple, especially at the beginning of the administration's, at the beginning date, submitting your application may still seem like it's the same. But on the back end, things are going to change. They're going to implement fraud detection processes that are probably going to extend the processing time. So that's the main concern. But the thing is, when they go looking, they tend to look at every single thing. And then, in addition to that, when I was practicing during the Trump administration, one thing was any little thing that was off with your application. Could be that you did not put NA in a field, all right, or you maybe the signature, one signature looked different than another signature on another page. They would reject the application. So they are going to put these hurdles in front of you to make it more complicated, more stressful, more difficult. And what I say now, in most cases, where I see huge errors being made is where you start out underestimating the process. And I'm telling you now, I'm telling you this now so that you do not underestimate the process. Don't go in thinking, I'm married to this person. This is a real marriage. How bad could it be? It can get bad, right? Because I've spoken to people, I've had clients who have gone through the Trump administration, and they had legit. So we had clients that were denied during the Trump administration and then approved during the Biden administration, because for the most part, they relaxed the fraud detection processes to be able to keep they didn't, it's not that they didn't look out for fraud, but it became more relaxed and it was a more efficient process. We're not going to see that this time around. So you want to make sure you do this right. And then another thing is that they are saying as soon as they deny the case, they're going to demand that you leave the country immediately. So you want to make sure that you improve your chance of success by not by succeeding in the first place, not making any mistakes that could have been avoided in the first part. Now, this with family-based processes like marriage-based, parent, child, what I would say is if you are the parent of a citizen who's age 21 or older, you're the parent of a US citizen, get that filed now while the law is still in place. The reason I'm saying that is because in Project 2025, it is implied that it will only be the nuclear family that would qualify, that would be the spouses and the children, but no longer parents and siblings. While the sibling process takes very long, it's questionable whether that's going to survive any changes, even if you submit the application now. What I can tell you is the parent child process, the parent adult child process may be out because we're now knowing that Trump is, the administration is on a Project 2025 agenda. So they will, over the next 4 years, be changing laws. And so you want to make sure that you're protected under the current laws that exist now, because those laws are going to be phased out. Now, why I say start from now is because these are statutory laws. That means that they have to actually go to Congress to change the law first, and that's going to be months worth of process. So make sure that you understand your process now. But with the processes behind the scenes, that's going to change. The way they process cases is going to change. The way they look at the cases is going to change. So this is why I'm saying have an attorney that can deal with the level of complexity, because if you're unable to manage the complexity, there's no such thing as file and then leave it. Do not file anything and do not have anybody file anything and leave you hanging, because when you need the help is not there, right? So make sure that you understand one thing. If you take one thing away from this, is get an attorney, no matter how simple your process is. You're applying for citizenship, get an attorney, because citizenship would go ahead and they would look at every single piece of your background in the citizenship process. And if they saw one thing that was off, they would then, that person would not walk away with their citizenship. They would walk away with either a notice, even at a, or they would be told that they have to citizenship and stay as a permanent resident, and pray, right? Pray that they don't get a notice to appear. So no matter how simple your case is, make sure you get an attorney. We are here to represent our clients' interests, to ensure that our clients go through a smoother process. We are experienced with complexities, so we can definitely help. So this is where I say, get in touch with us, get represented. It is worth it, right? What would you pay to ensure that your family was together, that you didn't face any negative consequences? These are invaluable things, invaluable investments for the future. Because I know one thing is people tend to go to paralegals, people that claim that they're immigration specialists, because they want to save some money. And then they learn the hard way that that was not the right thing to do. So this is why I'm saying no, don't take the shortcut. Do not this is not no time to think about saving some dollars, right? In addition to that, keep in mind that these paralegals, these people that call themselves paralegals, these immigration, notarios, they often participate in fraudulent schemes. So they'll tell you you qualify for something, they'll file the papers, and then you find yourself being accused of fraud because they submitted a fraudulent application on your behalf. So you want to make sure that you're going with an experienced attorney. And I've seen this. So I know in many cases I have to be the one to end up cleaning up the mess. But keep in mind, with this administration, cleaning up the mess after the fact is going to be exceedingly difficult. So make sure that you understand the kinds of investment you need to make and do it now. We're getting very busy. And I know many immigration attorneys are getting very busy right now because of the level of complexity that's coming. So make sure that you get representation now, because now is the time to plan. Just like we are planning, I'm planning on how to approach the complexities that are coming, the changes that are coming. You need to plan. We cannot help you if you do not make the move to plan as well. So keep that in mind. Everything is going to, even if you're coming, even if you're outside of the United States coming in, you're being sponsored, get represented, make sure somebody is looking out for your interests. Even if, no matter how simple you think your case is, this is not filling out papers now. This is definitely going to be a lot more complex. Now, keep in mind too that here are the things that we can expect. So we're going to have interviews again. I know that's coming for family based, for employment based, and who knows, maybe even for the humanitarian. They usually don't have interviews, but maybe we might see interviews coming for those as well. So they're going to start having interviews again. So no more green cards in the mail, just without an interview. Another thing is the public charge rule. That's probably going to be coming back. And who knows, it might be the public charge rule on steroids. I know the last time it was very, very tedious to fill it out. And many people started to even get requests for evidence based on the amount of information they wanted. So with the past public charge rule, the current public charge rule depends on basically looking at the income of the person that's sponsoring you or your co-sponsor. If you meet the minimum income, you're likely to be approved. This public charge rule that Trump had, that will probably be coming back, is going to be it's going to look at your background extensively. It's going to look at your family household size, your employment history, your education history, your health, your age, your financial history. Exactly. Our interviews 100% coming back. Yes. So the last time they did not give you a green card until you did the interview. That's what held up. A lot of people had to be waiting for interviews. I know with some employment based, they waive the interview, but for the most part, they required interviews. But for family based, there was always an interview. For VAWA, now back in Trump's administration, VAWA didn't have interviews. T visa, U visa don't have interviews, but we don't know what the changes will be for those. They do reserve the right to schedule interviews for those. The main issue with that is that there are only two offices that process the U visa, the VAWA, and the T, and those offices are Nebraska and Vermont Center. And so that's for the most part why they don't have the interviews, because not everybody, the locations are not accessible to many of the applicants, because they're all over the country. But who knows how they may start to distribute the workload to be able to evaluate these applications. Because as I said before, now they're going to change the way they process these applications. So they might, do it differently. They may assign it to the local office, and then have the local office service center or the local USCIS officers schedule an interview as well. That is not the case now. That has not been the case in the past, but that can happen. That they can make changes like that too. So we have to wait to see. But while the rules are in place now, you get ahead of it. How do you know if you're eligible for the T visa? Schedule a consultation with us. We'll talk to you in detail about it to be able to see if you qualify. All right, so now that I've just given you my 2 cents, I'm just going to answer some questions. So I'm gonna start with TikTok and move my way across. My husband is under COFA and they just become qualified immigrants. Can he petition for me? So I'm not sure what COFA is. Yeah, can you just explain what COFA is? I'm not sure. It's not ringing a bell. Does after approval of I-140, can we file EAD after filing adjustment of status and start working? As long as you qualify for adjustment of status, you can apply for adjustment of status and the work permit at the same time. If you live with U.S. citizen who is in a divorce process, what will happen? If you live with a U.S. citizen who is in a divorce process, what will happen? So if you're not married to the U.S. citizen, then you're still at risk. So you want to make sure you find out what your options you're eligible for. I had a deportation order and was vacated and dismissed without prejudice. Should I be worried? Have I-130 approved? So they can, without prejudice, means that they can always bring another removal hearing again, and they can always send you another notice to appear. So with this administration, it's possible. Now, before, in the previous administration, it was not a thing to reissue removal orders for individuals who had it vacated or dismissed. So we'll have to see about that. But without prejudice means that they can always bring another removal hearing against you. Does auto status and applied for fee waiver can still approve of getting the waiver? So keep in mind the waiver. Now, I don't know what waiver you're talking about, but the waiver process is still going to be law. Everything on day one of Trump's administration, these are under statute. These are forms of relief that's offered under statute. So these are still available, and we will definitely know when the change is coming. My friend Vawa is in 3 years and 9 months. She have a work permit. Is that too long? So sometimes it can be a little longer. The USCIS processing time may go even longer than the 3 years, 9 months. So she may not be outside of the case processing time. On average, though, I'm seeing 2.5 to 3 years. Can I file for my 2 children green card? So it depends on their age. Is it true Trump will give college students green cards? No, quite the opposite. Yeah, and this is the kind of misinformation that some people have had. Like one example is, the Trump supporters, they often say, oh, he's just gonna get rid of the bad immigrants. And what they're not getting is that when Trump talks about these criminals, he's talking about all undocumented immigrants. He's not referring to immigrants with criminal records or bad people. He's lumping everybody into one category. Now, Trump had definitely, his goal is to reduce immigration, not to give students their green cards. So definitely false here. Will people waiting on VAWA be in trouble for deportation? You would be in the better position than one who has no process in place. Because while you have a process in place, they're not going to deport you, right? The court would not move forward with a removal proceeding until they have processed your VAWA case. With T status, when do you get the work permit? So the work permit comes after approval. They have a bona fide determination process that's in place, just brand new. That one is supposed to result in a work permit. However, with that, it's really discretionary. And that means that when the Trump administration comes in, they may very well just give us whiplash and throw that out completely. While you still will have the ability to wait for the T status, you'll have to wait without a work permit until it's approved. So we have to be prepared for that possibility. My husband hasn't done his citizenship yet. Can he begin my petition now to adjust my status? If he's not a citizen, you wouldn't be able to stay and get your green card. You'd have to wait until he becomes a citizen. So if he's not doing it, make sure he gets his citizenship ASAP. What about U visas? So the way they process the U visas is going to be, as with everything, it's going to be different, right? The way that they approach it is going to be different. Can I seek help if I have to leave my country because of spouse abuse? So get in touch with us and let's talk. Now, as in the case, domestic violence can be a basis for asylum. However, in the last Trump administration, they withdrew that court decision that found the victim of domestic violence to have a basis for asylum. So that means that it may be very hard for victims of domestic violence to get asylum again. Is it true Trump will give college students green cards? Absolutely not. The opposite. The opposite. You're going to see a lot more, a lot less F1 visas being issued. You're going to see a lot of F1 students being even thrown out of status, possibly their visas taken away for any little violation like working. So definitely not. It's going to be the opposite. Can I make change in my son age where his application had been submitted? So it depends on the situation. Can I apply for the visa lottery? If you're here in the US without status, that visa lottery will not get you the green card. Yes, this person who overstay on their visa. Now, many of my clients have overstayed, yes, or they're here without their papers, and we're able to find solutions for them. So that's how I represent. But overstaying your visa does not automatically qualify you for anything. As a matter of fact, overstaying your visa can give you very limited options to get your papers. But the clients that we have end up qualifying based on circumstances they've been through. I got prima facie EAD for 5 years. Should I be worried? So no, as long as you have a valid EAD and you also have an EAD means work permit and your case is in process. Now keep in mind, no, the risk is not zero, but your chances of being swept up into any kind of removal proceedings is low because you have a valid current EAD and your case is still being processed. I'm married in US citizen, late filing. Can we approve for fee waiver for AOS? So you'd have to, and I would have to check to see if the fee waiver applies to the adjustment of status. Because it may, but I'd have to check that. There are ways, if you look at the USCIS, you can check to see if the fee waiver applies to the AOS in a marriage-based process. What I can file if I overstay my visa. So there's nothing that right off the bat you can file. However, if you explore your options with us, we can see if you qualify for the ability to get your papers, get your work permit based on any factors that may exist in your background, based on your family relationships. So this is why we need to talk to you in a consultation. Is there a way I can join my fiance who is there on a work visa? You'd have to be married to get the status as a spouse, and it depends on whether the visa allows you to allows the spouse to come along. What forms do I need to fill for status adjustment of status on a K1 visa? So no, I can't tell you this to go and do it yourself. And as I said earlier, you shouldn't be doing anything yourself, right? That's the whole point of this live is do not do anything yourself. You might be, um, you know, sabotaging yourself. So make sure you get assistance. The fact that you don't know what forms to fill out already, you're not even familiar with it, you need to make sure you get legal advice to move forward. I filed VAWA, had a pending I-485 from marriage. Will I still get my EAD? Did not file a new I-485. Yes, so that process is still in place. That process of you getting the work permit while you wait is still in place. Should I call NVC if I have not received an interview date after 90 days? No, it takes much longer than 90 days. It can take a year and a half to 2 years to get that interview. My US citizen child over 21 does not live US. Will I have issues with filing? No, at the point where it's sent to the embassy, you're going to have domicile issues where if you're a US citizen child who is over 21 is filing for you, but they can't show that they have domicile in the United States, yes, you're going to have issues. You have to show that they are living in the US or maintaining domicile in the United States. Domicile means they have a home, they have a base, they have a home base here in the US. Can I make change in my son's age where application had submitted? If you have a correction to make, definitely make that correction because you don't want any mistakes to be construed as fraud, which I'm saying this to you now because one of the major changes we're going to be seeing is we're going to be seeing them really sift through every detail of the application to detect possible fraud. And what I've seen in the past administration is even when there's no fraud, even when the intention wasn't there to commit fraud, it was usually construed as fraud, which is serious. Usually means denial or even deportation. So very important that if you have any corrections to make, you make it very quickly. I'm married in US and late filing, so I answered that. My husband came to US with asylum case. We got married, filed I-130. Is there a risk of him being deported? No, it all depends on your qualifications, but if all is well, going through the marriage-based process, you should be fine. Are you a US citizen? Another thing is if he came to the US with an asylum case, but it's going through court, that means he's already going through removal proceedings. And so it's a matter of providing defenses to that, which one of them could be adjustment of status if you meet certain criteria. How long it take for parents who are citizens to file for a child over 21? How long it take for parents who are citizens to file for a child? 5 to 7 years. So it's not going to be, if you're here in the US, you overstayed, it's not going to be the solution. Oh, yes, yes. I know I always look at that as well. She believed she could, so she did. Absolutely. That's the sign above my head. So you're not seeing it on um Facebook and YouTube, but I have a little picture with that saying. Absolutely. It's a good reminder. And it's a good reminder for you as well for what's possible. I applied for citizenship 1 week ago. Will I still need an attorney? I'm green card holder, 6 years in now. As I said before, when you are going through this process, going into 2025, do not make an assumption that anything is going to be simple, right? Make sure you're protected, because when things get hard and when the complications occur, it's going to be harder. It's going to be more stressful to run around and find an attorney. So you want to make sure that from the beginning, you have the attorney from a strategic point of view. You have your attorney that is going through the process with you. So make that extra investment. Now, is it too late? It's never too late to get an attorney, but once you've submitted the application, and if there are any mistakes on that application that the attorney didn't get to resolve before it was submitted, then that could create problems in you finding the attorney. What about work permit if we are here for 9 years? So the work permit depends on what you qualify for. So keep that in mind. I'm married in US citizen, so answer that. Can he cancel current TPS? Yes. Yes, he can. So the TPS, parole programs, TPS, DACA are going to be the programs that he is going to target first because they're easy. These are discretionary programs that are granted by the president. And so, since seeing he's coming in as a president, he doesn't want those programs anymore. He can just terminate them. Now, one thing is, it's not going to be terminated without a fight, of course. But the unnerving part about this is that in the past administration, that was what stopped him from ending TPS. That's what stopped him from ending DACA. But the courts didn't say he couldn't do it. What the court said is he just didn't do it the right way. And as long as he does it the right way administratively, then I guess he has the power. That's what the court was implying in their order, that he just didn't do it the right way administratively, but do it the right way as a president, he can do that. So it's very terrifying to think about that possibility. It is definitely going to face a big challenge in court because many people have been here for decades on TPS, and DACA are the dreamers, childhood arrivals. This is the only place they know. So we have to see how this is going to go down, but it's going to definitely be a big challenge. What's TPS and DACA? Temporary protected status. TPS is temporary protected status for certain individuals from certain countries that are facing conflict. They're unstable because of natural disasters or conflict, or some form of turmoil in the country. Examples of countries that have TPS would be Venezuela, Haiti, Ukraine, and we have some Central American countries that also have the ability to get TPS. We can expect that to go out the door. DACA it's deferred action for childhood arrivals. These were people who were brought to the United States as children who are now here, that this is their home, except they just don't have citizenship and they don't have the papers to show it, but this is their home. And right now, these are discretionary programs. So DACA, well established programs that have been permitted throughout the years. And under Obama is the one that started DACA. And now we're looking at that going out. So I got asylum approved and waiting for green card. Is any problem for incoming Trump administration? So you're in a much better position because you're at the tail end of the process. So you know where I say those who are not going to be protected are going to be the ones that possibly um, try to seek that relief after the changes have been made. Can I file for two children and green card? For my two children, 8 and 14, if you have your citizenship, yes. My husband came to the US with asylum case. We got married and filed I-130. Is there a risk of him being deported? So I answered that. How long for interview call? My case was approved. And this is for fiance visa. I'd say a year and a half to get that interview. All right, so I'm going to move over to Instagram and then I'm going to head over to YouTube and Facebook. All right. So is there an estimated time when the new president will start his immigration changes? So for the ones that he can do right away, he's going to issue executive actions, and I'll bet he's going to try to issue executive actions to change make changes he's not supposed to make, which will probably be up for a challenge. But we can expect those executive orders to be released immediately after he's sworn in. So from day one, we'll start seeing these changes going into effect. My girlfriend just got her citizenship. Is it a good idea to still go ahead and get married? Yes, do it now to get your case moving. Can I file for myself? If you're filing the national interest waiver, that's a possibility, but we'd have to look at your qualifications. Can I, and you cannot be out of status. Can I adjust my teenage son's status when he comes up? No, another thing, can I file for myself? There are other forms of relief where I represent clients who don't get married and they're not depending on family. And so those are options, but we have to talk to you to see what you qualify for. Can I adjust my teenage son's status when he comes up on a tourist visa? This would be after I arrive on the IR5 category. No. As the only way you'd be able to do that, so it's complicated. This is why I say definitely speak to an attorney to evaluate your options. You can go to the link in the profile or go to the link in the description of the video to book your appointment now, because we're getting really busy, and the all of us, all of our schedules are booked, are getting booked. So you want to make sure you get in while where it's all available, the time is available. But if you just got your green card and then you want to take your teenage son, you have to make sure certain conditions are in place to be able to get to sponsor your green card through your son through adjustment of status. You have to make sure his priority date is current, which that's taking some time now. And you have to make sure he doesn't overstay before he applies. I'm not sure if my question was answered, so I'd have to look for your question. If you overstay in the US, can a US citizen parent adjust your status if you're under 21? If you're 21 or over, no. It's 5 to 7 year wait, and that's what causes the hurdle, plus the overstay. How can I apply for my adjustment of status? Get in touch with us and we can talk to you about what your options are, whether you have family, whether you have humanitarian relief that allow you to apply for adjustment of status. What can I do if my birthday is wrong on my I-485 receipt, but on EAD receipts it's correct? So that may have been a one-time typo then on the receipt notice itself. But this is where I say it's very important to keep your everything you submitted to the USCIS so you can verify what you put. Can my mom file for me if I'm on a H-2B program? No. Hi, can a family member sponsor you through work to get work permit here in the US? If you already overstay, they definitely would not be able to do that as an employer. And then we would have to look at certain criteria to see if your relative, the company that they owned, if they owned a company, qualifies to petition for you as a worker. So it gets a lot more complicated to when the person is a family member. Overstayed my visa working, but my boss giving my pay in pieces. Why? What can I do? Get in touch. This is a red flag. If your boss is giving you your payments in pieces and that's keeping you, that sounds like it's keeping you there, which of course you want to get your money. So you keep working to keep, wait in hopes of them paying you your money. That's definitely a red flag for trafficking for the T visa. So get in touch with us and talk to us about what's going on with your boss so we can confirm whether you qualify. The T visa, VAWA, the U visa, these are statutory laws. And so on day one, an executive order can't just write these laws out. So it means that you would be able to still apply for these as long as they're available. Applied for AOS 2023, then VAWA 2024, and sent letter of abeyance. Check USCIS website, and it's saying 3 weeks until decision. Is that a concern? So it's not very dependable. The status updates with the timeline, but it does take time for them to make a decision. I crossed the border. I went through inspection. I'm now married to a U.S. citizen. Am I still considered illegal? So it depends. Did they provide you parole, and are you still within the period of time for the parole? And then keep in mind that the parole is discretionary. So until you're actually going through the adjustment of status process with your spouse, if you qualify, then they will consider you fair as an undocumented immigrant. In the state for 20 years, married to a green card holder and his card. So I didn't see that. Now, if you're married to a green card holder, they need to apply for citizenship so they can sponsor you. How long does it take after approved to get your Social Security and work permit? So usually see it within a week or two. Someone I know came to the US with F1 visa but didn't continue with his study. What can he do to get his paper? So a write-off, just these facts alone is not enough to determine whether they qualify. We would have to then evaluate what happened, what were their circumstances to see whether they qualify for any alternative relief. I am gonna be overstaying by January. I'm not planning to go back. What are my options? Definitely talk to an attorney and do it before January so you can make an informed decision. Because we're right now at 20, it's going to get a lot harder for everybody, right? Legal and undocumented immigrants. So you should make sure you are fully informed about any kind of decisions you're going to be making before January. So just make sure you do that, because so many times I will talk to people who they may not have an option and they're out of status and they become very distressed because life gets very hard in the US when you don't have any options. I need to speak with you privately. I did. So call the office and then we can talk. So call the office and any questions you have, just talk to them and they can arrange another appointment. What option do I have if I overstay my visa? Talk to us. That's going to be the first step. Go ahead and schedule your appointment now. I'm married to a U.S. citizen, but my wife has not filed taxes for 2 years. I know it will affect the affidavit. What advice can you give me and the direction to go? Start looking at get your wife to file those taxes, and or give us a call to talk more about what's going on. What's going on in your marriage, what's your circumstances, so we can understand better what the situation is and would be able to advise you of your options going forward. um, but your wife needs to make sure that she also corrects that, so that you can move forward with your filing. And as I said before, it's about to get a lot more complicated. So do not go this process without an attorney. I can't stress that enough. The kind of expensive that you're worried about it could be expensive without a price tag for any kind of mistakes that will happen, right? Any kind of mistakes that happen, it could mean there's no price tag on how expensive it is. So it's best to make sure you invest, because I know the number one thing why people end up going to paralegals instead of actual attorneys is because they think it's cheaper. um, Hi, good night. Miss Sharifa, when is the discount dropping? So thanks for reminding me. So we around the Thanksgiving, so I'll definitely get this posted. If you do schedule, I'll announce that later on this week. But if you do schedule your appointment before a certain date, so we'll put all of that together. Then you get and you book your own appointment where you don't the staff doesn't help you, but you book your own appointment, then you'll get usually a 33% discount. So it's usually $100 instead of 150 for the consultation. That's coming soon. So for those of you who can afford to wait, just look out for that discount. But what I would say is definitely make sure that you get yours booked, because we are going selling out very quickly. So just make sure that if you can, book it now. I overstayed my visa. Is there a way out for me? We have to talk to you. We have to figure out what options are available. What's the cost for the consultation? It's $150. And once we issue that discount later on this week, if you schedule your own appointment, and you enter the code that we're going to provide you, it's going to be 33% off. Can a person that have a 10-year green card get married to someone who has no status in the country before they apply for citizenship? Yes, and we have never had any issues with this before. Now, keep in mind, with the new administration, from a strategic point of view, it may be different. It has never been an issue. I've represented clients who have had undocumented spouses, and it has never been an issue. But with this current administration, with this administration that's coming in, it may be something to once again talk to your attorney about, right? These are the kinds of questions and the kind of strategic approaches that you need to talk to your attorney about. And if you don't have an attorney, you could make the wrong move. So keep that in mind. Hi, so I applied for AOS and then switched to VAWA. I sent a letter of abeyance, so I answered that. Can a person that have a 10-year green card get married to someone who has no status? So I just answered that. Can you explain a waiver and change of status? So waivers are asking for forgiveness for certain violations. And then the change of status, usually some people say change of status with adjustment of status is the process of applying for the green card while you're waiting. What if visa gets approved but the petitioner died? What will happen to the visa approved is still valid. It depends on at what stage you're at. So, for example, if the petition was approved, um, the relative died after the petition was approved, then there may be a chance for what's called humanitarian reinstatement. But once again, you'd want to try to get that done before the administration takes over, because once they take over, anything discretionary like that will probably no longer be granted. All right, I married overseas and I-130 was denied. I appealed and haven't heard anything. Is it okay to withdraw the case or start over? So this is definitely something that you need to talk to your attorney about, because you have a lot going on. It's in the middle of an appeal, and then you want to reapply, and so we'd have to figure out, what do you have a good chance at the appeal, and why was it denied? So we'd have to figure out all of that and sort through it. Will there be any movement in PD for uh, row under EB2 or EB3? Well, the priority date, yes, it is slow, and it's hard to predict where it's gonna go. But we have to see. It's just based on numbers. So the priority date is based on the numbers of visas available. It's not necessarily something that's discretionary. So the government doesn't do it. It's just that it depends on the numbers. So we have to see month to month. Can someone with a visitor visa married to a US citizen in America? Yes, right now they can. Do you think EAD renewal is going to take longer than expected? Yes, yes. All of that is going to get longer again. Do you Is it going to take a long time to get the interview? Yes, yes. All of that. That's what happened in the last during the last Trump administration. Things just took longer, and that was because of the tedious processes that they had in the background, mostly focused on fraud detection. Is the new administration will make it delayed? Yeah, we can count on that. Uh, when will get approved? Application I-360. So EAD, the work permit for VAWA takes about 6 to 12 months. Will Trump abandon the T visa? Will it be harder to apply? So it's statute. So they have to do the work, right? They have to process the T visas under the policies that exist now. But what will happen? So Trump can't just come in and get rid of it. If he's gonna do that, he has to go to the Senate and the House. They have to repeal the laws first. But the way that they process it is going to be different. So, for example, when they issue policies, they may issue policies, and those who apply under the current policy, that will apply to them. But going forward, if they change the policies, they're probably going to put a lot more hurdles in the way. They're going to probably issue more requests for evidence. They're probably going to question certain actions as to whether it is trafficking, and that at that point is not anything strange to me. As an immigration attorney, I survived during that last stretch with Trump's administration and the immigration process. So we're prepared for possibilities like that. But getting rid of the T visa completely, no. Same as VAWA, U visa, family-based immigration. It's not just gonna go poof on day one. We will know when those changes are coming, so we're gonna be watching closely. and preparing. Thank you for once again keeping us all updated. Not sure if asked prior, but what are expectations for T visa under Trump? So the T visa was evaluated differently. The requirements were the same, but the way that the officers looked at it was different. The officers usually were more quick to question the credibility of the client, or they sometimes they questioned whether the actions that took place was actual trafficking. The great thing that we have now, the excellent thing that we have now, though, is we have a policy manual that lays it out very clearly. The Trump administration has to first announce that they're going to withdraw, they're going to change those policies, which they will, but we will have an effective date where those changes will take place. So we'll know those changes, and then those under the current policy, they'll evaluate it under the current policy. So the good thing is that starting out, those who have applied, they are still going to be under the current policy until he changes it. Inevitably we will see the change. They're probably either going to go back to what it was before, or they may implement additional changes, which may present more hurdles and more complications, as with other cases, as with family based, as with marriage based, as with employment based. We're going to be seeing more hurdles across the board. So case has wife has case administrative closed. Will she get a deportation order? So it's good she got it closed. That may not be their priority to go back and reopen closed cases. I'm not saying that can't be a risk in the future, but that probably will not be their first priority. Just married, green card spouse, dating 2 years. I overstayed problems in relationship. He says he may not petition. Should I file VAWA now since Trump will go in, or wait to see if husband? Great question. And actually, I was going to say this. If your spouse is now, and I'm pretty sure with everything that's going on in the media, with all this talk of mass deportation, with Tom Homan coming on and saying he's going to get started with detentions and mass deportations. I know that there are relatives and spouses out there that are using this as a weapon against their immigrant relatives or spouse. If they are doing this to you, go for VAWA and go for it quickly, because this is still considered abuse and extreme cruelty for them to do that to you, because they are supposed to be looking out for you. Tom Homan, that's his job to, scare immigrants and put fear in the hearts of immigrants and work on mass deportation. That's not the job of your spouse. Your spouse is supposed to look out for your best interests. If your spouse is doing that, they're using it as a weapon of control against you. And I know some of you that are listening to me, you are going through that right now. Get on and apply for VAWA ASAP. If your spouse is doing that, and worse, your spouse is doing this to you during this time, it means you will never see the green card on their watch. They will milk the hell out of the leverage that they have with this, what's happening now. So VAWA is there as relief, so get on it. What can Trump do to VAWA? So VAWA statute, they would have to repeal the law, or they would have to change the law, amend the law. So it would take some time to do that. It's a possibility because he has Congress, yes, and he has Congress. He has the Supreme Court, so he can get it done, but it's still going to take time. And then keep in mind that VAWA, the T visa, U visa, these are types of humanitarian relief that has been here for decades, over 2 decades. And so, in addition to that, the Congress um, possibly amending the laws, there's probably going to be resistance there, even from the Republicans, because these laws have been long-standing. They have provided relief to vulnerable immigrants, and also keep in mind that these kinds of relief also help to stabilize and keep a community safe, because immigrants who are qualified for these, they're not afraid to get help. They're not afraid to report what's happening to them or leave the situation that they're in, because they have this form of relief to fall back on. So it would I going through this, it probably would face a very hard they would have a hard time with this. They'll be debating, going through a very tedious process to be able to amend or appeal the law. Student with a visa, can I get a green card? No, I don't. This is the second question that I'm seeing here saying, can you as a student get green cards? And actually, somebody asked, is it true Trump will give college students green cards? No, no, quite the opposite. Can the president pardon undocumented immigrants? No. Now, while and keep in mind that whatever relief he grants, it can only be discretionary unless he gives, and he doesn't have the ability to do that, give green cards. He doesn't have the ability to do that, but he can give parole. But remember, parole is discretionary and it can always be taken away. But he can't do a massive pardon, because remember, being undocumented too is not a crime. So he can't pardon someone for an offense that they never committed. I have an EAD from my asylum case. I went to my interview early this, and the USCIS referred my case to immigration court, which is next year. Should I be worried now that Trump wins? No, you have a process that you're going through. So they probably will not, they probably won't just send you away. You're already in the process that Trump is trying to get many undocumented immigrants in. My husband is a derivative on tea. Can his own trafficking experience be added to my declaration statement? No, the declaration is about you. This is a strategic question, but they're not going to grant your spouse a tea based on just mentioning his experience in your declaration. So keep that in mind. Your spouse should be applying for his own T visa application. Is it possible for my 25-year-old USC daughter to file for a deported father in Nigeria if the father is still married to the US citizen and also married in Nigeria with kids? So that is considered polygamy, and it makes that person, the man here, inadmissible to the United States. Just married to a green card holder, been together 2 years, and I've overstayed a year. Problem in relationship, he threatened not to file. Do you recommend filing VAWA? So I answered this. Go for VAWA, do it before, get on it before we experience any changes. What happens to VAWA under Trump? So I talked about that. Hi there, Donna. Do you need interview to remove unconditional? They have not. I just, for example, got one approved a few weeks ago. They didn't call us for an interview. However, keep in mind that going forward, they're going to call you for interviews again. So interviews are going to come back. Is there a pending T application with a dismissed criminal charge? Will the applicant go into removal proceedings for having? No, it depends on what happened with the criminal charge. If it was dismissed and it was dismissed in a way that's still not considered a conviction, then they should be fine. Just make sure you can show the evidence of dismissal. How can I call you about my family member? Book a consultation and make sure if you're not the sponsor, make sure your family member is the one doing, if this is about the family member. Do you think it will be harder to remove conditions on the 2-year green card? Everything is going to get harder. There's not one type of application that I anticipate is going to be easy peasy. Everything is going to get a little harder and a little more tedious. So to remove conditions, we're going to see interviews. It's going to be like a marriage-based process. We're going to see interviews. We're going to see where they're going to really dig into the additional evidence for the marriage-based green card. When to expect a decision in I-360 VAWA for cause was updated to RFE. RFE response received after submitted since 2022. So it might be a few weeks to even a few months. I'd like to make an appointment. Go to the link in the description of the video and you will be able to go to the link tree and there you can schedule your own appointment. All right, so that's gonna be it for me today. Thanks everybody for all these amazing questions and just hang tight. I know, it's a nerve-wracking time, but what I say now is we have time to plan. That's what we're doing here at the firm. We're planning. Make sure that you do the same because nobody can help you if you don't reach out for help to understand your options. My car ticket come to 4,000. Wow, that's a lot. 4,000. I can't afford. What can I do? Get an attorney. Even the attorney may be cheaper. I don't know if this is a traffic violation, but it sounds more serious because $4,000 is excessive. I have VAWA process. I applied joining the Army. Is there any way to expedite my green card? So there may be an argument there, but since you're not the member of the military, it may not be a proper basis. Usually, you would have to show that there was going to be a financial loss to a company or entity or to another person, or that you had an urgent humanitarian need, or there was a mistake on the immigration side that caused a delay. But outside of that, the options to get it expedited would be limited. You're applying to the military, but you're not a member of the military unless the military wrote a letter, as part of the recruiting process saying why it's so important for you to be able to qualify for the military. But I doubt that would happen. If parents who are residents applied for unmarried son over 21 2 years back, will that help? No, unfortunately, that wouldn't help. I'm citizenship. I applied for fiance visa, was approved September. How long for an interview date? About a year and a half. After 1 year, I sent RFE for I-485 USCIS reviving. Yeah, sometimes it takes a while to get a response. Okay, so parking tickets came to 4,000. So yeah, you'd have to get an attorney to help you with that one. I came here legally, have I-94 on parole during Obama administration. Now I have TPS. What could I do? So we'd have to evaluate your options to see if there are any alternatives, but TPS holders are going to be in for a battle. Can buying land here help you get green card? No. All right, that's going to be it for me. Thanks everybody for your time. I appreciate it. Hang tight. Let's just plan by scheduling your appointment. Schedule it ASAP because we are getting busy, and I know a lot of my colleagues are getting very busy. So just make sure that you schedule your appointment ahead of time so we can evaluate your options and then come up with a solution for you so we can move forward before the changes occur. All right, have a good night. Bye bye.